Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us. Today we're absolutely delighted to welcome Stella and Michelle from Global Nanny Training to talk with Janet and I about all things accreditation and all things nanny in early years, stateside as well. So delighted to see you both, Stella and Michelle.
Thanks so much for having us. Quick introduction, I'm Stella Reed Kuntz, alternatively known as Nanny Stella from Nanny 911. Currently based in Los Angeles and here with my training partner, Michelle Leroux.
Thanks for having us. I'm Michelle. Stella said we work together to bring training to nannies in the U.S. and to abroad. I've been in this industry for more than half my life, so we're super excited to be here with you guys today.
Thanks so much. We're really excited to be chatting with you as well today. It's great to see you. Just before we get into the basically the body of what we're going to talk about today, just a little bit on kind of the work we've done with at NCFE, working with Global Nanny and Michelle and Stella over the years. So predominantly the work we've been doing is with our accreditation services side of the business and our customized qualifications, in which what we can do is we can approve and accredit qualifications that are designed and developed by specialists in a certain field. And what's been fantastic to work with Stella and Michelle over the years is developing specifically tailored, customized qualifications for nannying that really fit the needs and requirements of those learners within that. And what we're trying to do within that, and I know Michelle and Stella will talk through this as well, is just raise the standards and really standardize and professionalize the standards of nannying within that. And I just wondered if Stella and Michelle, you wanted to just talk a little bit about Global Nanny and your mission and what you've been doing so far within that.
Clearly, I am British, English, whatever label you want to give me. And I've been in the States on and off now for 33 years. Michelle and I met many moons ago through the show, Nanny 911, and just had an instant connection, and we're very passionate. Actually, I think we're boringly passionate to some people. We tend to get on their nerves about how much we talk about this stuff. The basic premise of us collaborating was because Michelle already was developing training, I was developing training, and I had sought out, cash. I had sought them out initially because of the historical, qualification per se of the NNEB. The reason that we collaborated is there is nothing here in the US that is a standalone accreditation certification. Again, whatever label you want to give it, there was nothing standalone for nannies. And Michelle and I are very passionate, again, boringly passionate, about nannies having a seat at the table. Early years is fabulous and it's all well and good. But, there is a legitimate need for nannies here in the US, and we wanted to raise the standard.
No one understands the work a nanny does like a nanny. So it was important to us to really develop training that was specific and customized for nannies. So not taking, current standards and adapting them or tweaking them or applying them and seeing if we could kind of make them work. For example, in the in-home setting, you're typically not changing diapers with gloves and sterilization, and you're not wiping things down between each surface because it's the same baby. It's their products, it's their things. You have access to, the sink in the kitchen to wash your hands, all of those kind of things. So we really wanted to develop training that was specific for the in-home care environment, where nannies work unsupervised, where nannies really have to be self-motivated to do what they're supposed to be doing, and to give them standards and best practices that align with, global standards, but at the same time are really written rather than adapted for nannies in the environment they work.
That's fantastic. And I think that the work you've done to bring that through is really starting to kind of bear fruit now, where we've seen so many learners interested in the word being spread right across the States, which is brilliant, and it's testament to the hard work and as you say, your passion, which I'm going to show you never does get boring. It's just very it's great. And I think for Janet and I, we've worked on several projects over the years, and this is a really exciting one for us because you're so passionate, and it allows us Janet and I, to bring our passion as well to it as well, which is fantastic. So thanks so much for that. What I'd like to do now is bring in our sector manager, Janet, who can introduce herself before we're going to go into just having a bit of a Q&A session really about your customised qualifications and what you've been doing. So it'd be great, Janet, if you could just introduce yourself for the session.
Yeah, of course. And the first thing I want to say before I even introduce myself is I'm loving the passion. So fantastic. So I'm Janet King. I'm the sector manager, as Mike said, for education and childcare. And like yourselves, I spent most of my working life, because obviously I'm not working with children and young people now, but my working life in industry was always with children and young people. So whilst I haven't personally worked as a nanny, I know people who have, because I was one of the people that I did A-levels, and then I wanted to do the NNEB, so I did the NNEB, and then I went on to obviously work in industry and then to teach and to manage in sort of further and higher education. But the one thing that stays with me is the importance of absolutely tuning in to children and tuning in to child development and, you know, every single child. So it's an absolute privilege to be in your company today and to be able to talk about all things that are boringly passionate. Bring it on, I say. So one of the things I want to do is just talk a little bit about the wonderful work that you do, really. So forgive me, I might refer to one or two notes to make sure I get this as I want it to be. But I've seen the breadth. I've been on the website. I've had a look and been, you know, duly impressed with what's out there. And I've seen the breadth of the customised qualifications that are available on your website. I just wondered if you would like to say a little bit about each one and the benefits that those bring to those working in the position of a nanny.
Yeah, we do have a few. I think we have 3 at the moment, but we're continually behind the scenes developing new stuff and collaborating with people. I'm going to let Michelle talk about the actual nanny side of the business, and I'll just tell you a little bit about the newborn care course. So here in the States, what we call a maternity nurse in the UK, we can't use the term nurse in the US, different standards. You can be called a nurse if you're a registered nurse or a CNA or an LVN, you know, those credentials over here. So a few people had already been pioneering this some years back, one of them being Tonya Sakowitz at Newborn Care Solutions, whose course I had audited and really loved, you know, the content. In a nutshell, from A to Z, it covers everything from newborn care right through to even dealing with sort of payroll and taxes, because here in the US, newborn care specialists are basically self-employed. It's not like a nanny that is employed by the family. So it does cover a big spectrum. And, you know, again, we just, you know, we came to CASH because I know the standards that CASH and NCFE have. Many years ago in the UK, I had got my NVQ level 3. Not going to get into all that. And I'd even looked into becoming a assessor. And the red tape of becoming an assessor completely overwhelmed me. And I consider myself quite smart, but I did not have the bandwidth to go the distance in that. So for me, it was really about not forcing the UK down US people's throats. It was finding a collaboration that made sense, and this just absolutely makes sense. So not to sort of deviate away from what's going on, but everything that you need to know about our courses is on, you know, the websites. But the newborn care basically is from, you know, basic baby care all the way through to how to run your newborn care business.
One of the nice things about partnering with you guys at the NCFE is that you meet practitioners where they're at. So we have 2 options for nannies right now. We have our foundation practice for nannies, which for me, when I developed this course, having been an award-winning nanny, having been a parenting author, having really been a credentialed nanny in the US through INA, I really wanted to put a course together that was like, what do you need to do? What is the absolute thing that every nanny needs to know to be successful, to keep children safe, to foster positive social, emotional, intellectual, physical development, and to work hand in hand with parents effectively. So that course, that foundation practice for nannies, is almost like a textbook for, what you need to know to enter the field. Even if you have a background working in a child care center, or if you have a background working in at-home daycare, really specific to what it takes to be successful working in the in-home environment. So that's our foundation practice for nannies, our customized qualification. Then we know there's some nannies who have been a nanny a long time, but are really looking for that stamp of approval, that third party endorsement or acknowledgement that they have the competency, they have the skills, they have the knowledge to demonstrate effectively that they can work in the setting. So we took our foundation practice and we really built on it to make it an interactive program where students really have to demonstrate those competencies by completing a portfolio, by demonstrating they know how to handle situations, by identifying which steps they need to take to be successful in situations they may encounter. Everything from when you're working in the home environment, you need to know how to shut the water off in the house, right? In a daycare center, you're in a building, you may not need to know that. But if you're in the home and you have a flood, what do you do to keep the kids safe? Everything like payroll, taxes, the HR side of working, for a family where there's no go-between person and you have to advocate for yourself, but to really the foundation of child development. What order do things happen in the early years? What do you need to know to engage and foster and grow children to be successful to their next developmental level? How do you plan your activities around a child who is 2 versus a child who is 4? Or when you're working with siblings that are 3 different ages, how do you meet the needs of each one without sacrificing the needs of the other? So I feel really good about these 2 courses that we currently have. And as you know, Mike, we're working on a diploma course where nannies can really take it again to the next level. So, in the US, we have opportunity to get that stamp of approval from other organizations, but those organizations do not know childcare. They do not know the early years. They're focused on, is your business set up right? Are your business practices operational? Whereas partnering with you, we not only get that side, but we really get feedback from experts who understand the early years and who are eager to learn and expand the content offerings for specifically nannies who do work in a really unique setting.
That's exactly it, Michelle, isn't it? I think that's the brilliance of this partnership together with using the accreditation services and customized. As Stella was saying earlier, we don't have to take the fully regulated UK qualifications and try and shoehorn them into the US and say this is what you must do. What we have been able to do is develop a specifically tailored program which is absolutely unique to the region and to what's needed there to really hit the necessity of the profession and make sure we're giving them everything they need within that. And as you said, we're starting to develop a lovely pathway right through from foundation to advanced, which is really going to benefit everyone from first going in to nannying right through to those who just want to professionalize and have that qualification as standard.
One thing that I'd just like to add is that was very, very prevalent and a focal point for Michelle and I in the very beginning of creating Global Nanny Training was we didn't want distance to keep people from an education that they wanted or they deserved. So, the fact that they can do this at their own pace, it's online, the fact of, building your portfolio of evidence, all that good stuff, but when we're just chatting now, I'm thinking of, somebody out there might be, well, how does this benefit me? I'm in a different country. So one country that comes to mind very quickly for myself is, the Philippines. Somebody in the Philippines who wants to go to Canada where they have, I don't know, it's not reciprocal, but they have a visa program where somebody from the Philippines can go to Canada. This is something that somebody can come with before they've even got to Canada. They're what we call the stamp of approval. The fact that somebody's already done the work before they've, gone somewhere else to, seek a better life for themselves or access to education. So it was the fact that we didn't want people to not be able to get something because they were, say, 6,000 miles or 3,000 miles away. And the other thing about the US is, and again, not knocking the US, I love the US, but the industry is unregulated. It is not regulated at this time, right now, at this moment in time. And Michelle and I jokingly call ourselves voyeurs in this industry. Again, I say this light-hearted, but we get on people's nerves, and we're going to keep getting on people's nerves because we believe this industry will be regulated. And when it is, where are you going to be? Even if they say, okay, you have to go to college or you have to do ECEs or you have to have this, or at least you're going to come with something that somebody else doesn't have. And for me, many, many years ago, I went back to school in the UK to get my NVQ level 3 in play work. And the reason for that was I never wanted to be in a room where somebody got a job over me because they had something that I didn't have. So I had the experience, but I had qualifications up the wazoo, but it wasn't in childcare. So, it's just people being able to bring more strings to their bow so that when the industry does change, and it is going to change, they will be prepared.
That is why NCFE want to work so closely in partnership with you, because we feel, as we've discussed it many a time, Stella and Michelle, that we can support this standardization, professionalization, and that regulation when it comes to it. To say, look, we've been putting these cornerstones in place for years now. We have a program from foundation to advance right through that shows all of this, so we can help bring them along with that. I think we're in a really strong position to do that now, and Janet and I will be excited to support as that grows. But as I mentioned, seeing, because Stella especially is being the champion of NCFE and cash in the US for years now, and doing all that work to really raise our brand awareness there. So it's great to see the work with Global Nanny and what you're doing with Michelle now, how far that's gone, and how well the reputation spreads. So yeah, thanks again.
One more, and then I'm going to let Janet ask her questions. Sorry, Janet. The other thing I want to say to you guys is, we really do appreciate this symbiotic relationship, because that's what it is. It's a collaboration. But some people jokingly there's a lot of jokes in this industry where me and Michelle are concerned, and it's okay. But some people look at cash and NCFE, and I'm going to be really, really candid, and they say, wow, they're really old, they're really old. And I'm like, you're missing the point though. That really old comes with a lot of value. And the fact that when we came to you with the NCS course, specialized newborn care, you didn't have somebody in-house that was an expert in this arena, and you went out and you sourced that person and you brought them in. So I want to say that the collaboration that I see is actually old meets new. You guys are very, you're very established, and you established, but also you're very aware and very open-minded to what is happening out there and how you can modify things along with us to make these things happen.
Absolutely, the oldest awarding organisation in the UK, 1848. But I think one of the reasons that we all have been around so long is because that we adapt and we're innovative, and we do change with the times. I think if we didn't do that, we certainly wouldn't still be here. But yeah, I mean, that is absolutely true. We know we are UK, we are the gold standard of UK childcare and early years education. Absolutely, we're internationally, I think we're a bastion of that as well within the UAE. But we do know when we come to new regions that we don't know all the regulations. But what we'll do is we'll partner with experts like Michelle and Stella who do, and we'll bring in people and experts and specialists to review and make sure those standards are set. And I know Janet's team does a fantastic job supporting international accreditation with that work as well to make sure we're bringing that through. But yes, we do. We want to be as innovative, and even though we are very old, we want to be as innovative and forward thinking as we can. So it's, yeah, I think it is a great relationship in that sense. Sorry, Janet, I'll let you ask some more questions now.
No, it's fine. And I love the conversation, because what I was thinking as you were talking, I think it was yourself, Michelle, who talked about that progression, about and Stella knowing where the student is, knowing where the nanny is, and where they could be, and that journey. And I do think that of all the careers across education and childcare, across the early years in particular, the nanny, that home carer, is probably the one where you don't see that progression, where you might not necessarily see any program of study at all. So to be able to see that there is something that's giving you the basic grounding, that's making you feel as a nanny confident and competent, and being able to say, yeah, I've got this, I can do this, and then to actually have something that they can aspire to, I think is a fantastic opportunity. And you were talking, Michelle, about development and about the different areas of development, and how, how crucial and critical that is to everything. It's holistic, isn't it, to everything, and lays down that foundation. In England, there's a lot of emphasis on child development in terms of the early years practitioner and the criteria from the Department for Education through a regulated sense, and also with the early years educator. And we do still find that is the core of everything. And I strongly believe that, because everything will hang from that, won't it? If you can understand child development, then you're able to identify what's going on, you're able to tune into children's interests and so on. So I know you talked about the course and how it does that, but how would you actually prepare a nanny with no experience? This is a bit of a diverse question. I have not planned for this one, but you kind of brought it to the scene. So how would you actually support a nanny with no understanding, no prior knowledge? Why would they? They want to be thinking of a career in home-based care, but they are not particularly, averse with child development. Where do you start with that? How do you ensure that that's in place?
So one of the really great things that I have come to love about working with NCFE is that leveling process. So when a new nanny comes in, what's the first thing you do? You engage them and provide that information so that they can access it, absorb it, and acknowledge it. So that's the first step, right? And as I said, the foundation course is really like a textbook. You go through the foundations, you go through the basics, and then you're quizzed on those basics. Did you understand and comprehend the knowledge? So that first level is really a knowledge-based program. And then we can take it to the next level by saying, you've absorbed that knowledge, how do you apply it? And one of the things that, of course, I think was brilliant, because it was my idea, is that in each section of our portfolio development, we have things like, what would you do? And that's a section that lays out a scenario, and you have to respond to that scenario based on the information from the unit that you just, learned from. So, hey, you're at the playground. You notice, all of a sudden the child you're with starts, becoming fatigued. What do you do? What steps do you take? What action steps do you do to address this situation? And then they have to rely on the knowledge that they've learned and then apply it to the situation and outline the steps that they would take. And it's been interesting reviewing user material and user information that comes in to see how they would respond, and then to redirect them back to the knowledge base and the fundamentals to apply. So we do that by the what would you do section, the planning section, where, for example, you've just taken a unit on nutrition. Now you're going to have to submit a weekly menu for a 3-year-old, for a 5-year-old, for a 1-year-old. And how does that change as the children grow? How you cut the grapes at age 4, is going to be different than at age 8, and those types of things. How do you apply that knowledge based on the content that you have acquired? So really, we're looking to see if they can take that knowledge and put it into action, put it into real life scenarios that we encounter in the nanny setting where you may not encounter in a daycare setting. And one of the things that you had pointed out, Janet, that is so true is that when nannies work, a child care providers work in a center-based program, they have a curriculum, they have state guidelines, they have frameworks that they have to adhere to. When you're working in the private home, the nannies are tasked with developing that on their own, or otherwise they really just become a warm body, making sure the child may be safe in their parents' absence. So how do we go from being a babysitter to being maybe a mother's helper, to being a nanny, to being a career nanny? And that's the pathway that we're looking to develop. And it really starts with laying those fundamentals, expanding on them, going from absorbing them to applying them, to be able to even teach them to other nannies.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I really do love the idea of being able to progress and to see that career journey and the professionalization of such an important, responsible, accountable position, like the nanny holds. The other thing I just wanted to go back to really, Stella, you gave a wonderful overview of the newborn, let's get this right, the newborn care program. And I think that's fantastic. It's obviously, when you think about the responsibility of that very, very young baby, it's enormous, isn't it? And do you think that the way that you match the family to the nanny helps with that sort of the demands of that, and how do you support a nanny who's actually finding themselves with the challenges that comes along with looking after such a very young baby?
Great question. And as far as matching, we both have separate businesses where we match nannies and families, and NCS. So what tends to happen here, Janet, is that a family, so say a family, a young couple, let's say a young celebrity couple, right? Young celebrity couple, they're going to be working, they're going to need help. They will hire an NCS for X amount of time. Some people will do a couple of weeks. All joking apart, they weren't young, but like Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas, they hired their newborn care specialist for a year at a time when they had their children. So they wanted to know that they were in good hands. I'm not sure that person had actually done the NCS, but she was an older school, what they used to call a baby nurse, which is, again, no longer, it's actually legally not allowed. You cannot call yourself a baby nurse. So people definitely want the support. So as far as nannies that don't have the experience, I wouldn't place somebody, and I know Michelle wouldn't place somebody with a family that didn't have newborn care experience. There are a lot of self-certifying courses in the US, and all of them, but people have sterling reputations, and I'm sure they're great, but we wanted that extra stamp of approval that yourselves scrutinized. It took 2 years to get the newborn care through you guys, and you are wonderfully a pain in my backside at the end of the year when we go through audit with you, Janet. I mean, I love you, but when I see those emails coming through, I tend to have a mini heart attack. Anyway, I do digress. But we would actually advise people to do a newborn care course. Again, it doesn't have to be ours, and we don't ignore other people's when they come to us for placement. But we do know the standard, that exists with the course that we have out there. The other thing that this sort of ties in, hopefully, in a nice, neat bow, but it would be like advising somebody who, is a nanny that wants to step into the newborn care arena. For me, it's not enough to do a weekend course. That's not enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. We actually now have recertification through yourselves for newborn care of X amount of hours experience, continued professional development. So for me, it would be saying to somebody, hey, you know, I see that you have a lot of babysitting experience, or it says that you've worked with newborns. You know, can you go back and can you get that documented? Can we put that in a portfolio of evidence to say that you have X amount of hours with newborn, or you are doing this course, or you are doing the doula course through Kappa and Dona here in the US. So for me, the pain that I am is I want proof. I don't want to just hear what you say you've done, you know, and obviously we do check references when somebody is even doing recertification, you know, a member of my team checks that. It's actually quite exciting at the moment because I think we have 5 or 6 people on hold for the recertification because they've been so many years now and have got so many hours and continued professional development. And they are chasing me. They're actually a little pain in my tush at the moment, but that's okay because I told them we're not ready. Until we're ready, until we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, we can't request, you know, their certification, recertification. So to tie it up, it's really about documentation of going back to the people that you've worked for, even if you were a babysitter, you know, and I don't say even a babysitter. To me, a babysitter's a big deal. But if in the past you've babysat for somebody who had a 6-month-old, I want to know about it. I want to know what you did. I want to know how many hours you worked. I mean, at 14 years old, I babysat a little girl that had febrile convulsions. Like they say, you know what? Somebody here is not going to let a 14-year-old look after a child that has febrile convulsions, but that gave me my stamps of approval that I could legitimately say, you know, I've been there, done that, not sure I want to do it again, but, you know, just building up the experience and the knowledge. I hope that made sense because I sort of went a long-winded way around that.
No, it does make sense because I think what it identifies with is that critical importance of those early days and the vulnerability of the parent, the vulnerability of the nanny, and of course of the baby. So yeah, the idea that somebody has to go through some training, they have to prove it, to use your words, I think, and having the evidence is very reassuring, I think, for everybody to hear, because that's what we want, isn't it? We want our children to be safe and to be cared for in the best possible way that they can. So fantastic. Thank you so much. So you've exhausted my questions. So thank you so much for that. But again, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to meet you face to face, so to speak, and to be able to chat through your customized qualifications. Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys. You know, as much as I joked with you, but I do get anxiety when I see those emails with the audit coming through, Janet. I appreciate the standards of you guys, else we wouldn't be having this conversation. I know what your standards are, and you now know what our standards are.
It's been super exciting to get that validation, to get that acknowledgement of the work that we're doing, right? Because we truly are in an industry that we're starting from zero in terms of accreditation, in terms of acknowledgement of a career pathway. So to have the leaders in, you know, global awarding for, you know, the early years say like, well done, is really big for me personally, for Stella personally, and for an industry to be validated by people that do this. They work with trainers year in and year out, to hear that you're excited about the work we do. I mean, for that, like, that's so rewarding for like me. I'm going to cry. Like, it's so rewarding for me personally because, I look at the work that we do, and just to know that it's being recognized by a credible organization that knows their stuff and that is recognized globally is huge. I mean, we're the first people to get this done, and it's just such an exciting time. We joke sometimes that, we're ahead of the curve. Like, we're it's really hard to be ahead of the curve. Like, nothing's, required for nannies. Anybody can be a nanny, and we're, chugging up trying to get these, requirements in place. And to have you guys validate the work we do is just, it's huge for me, and it's really huge for our industry. And I think it's yet to be seen exactly how big it is for our industry. And as we continue to work together to bring brand awareness to CASH and NCFE, and to bring brand awareness about the work that we do and what's available to nannies, I do think we are going to see that wave rise, and nannies really want to earn their qualifications.
I do as well, and thanks again, Michelle. It is such an exciting project for us to work on as well. And we just to reiterate, we're an educational charity, so when we work internationally, we want to do it with like-minded people, and we want to do it for that core purpose, that we really want to make that difference. So it is so exciting. So we thank you very much as well, I suppose. So thanks for all the work you do. We're excited to work together. Thanks for joining us today. I suppose the last thing to mention is anyone that might be interested in kind of taking one of your courses, getting in touch, what's the process really for any interested nannies or parties to kind of get in touch with you both?
So for people who are interested in learning more about training opportunities, they can go to globalnannytraining.com or nannystellartraining.com.